Today I went on a trail ride with my friend Emily. She took the big babysitter boy, Tonka. My friend and camera woman extraordinaire, Edie, came with us as well. We are experimenting with the best ways to film out on the trails. Edie settled in quickly and enjoyed the views. We quickly discovered it was problematic for Edie to hold onto her horse while filming. So Emily ponied the mare while Edie filmed. This will be fine until we have to go up a huge hill. More experimentation will be required. This ride was uneventful. The next day, however, Aries and I were down by Salmon Creek with two other riders. Aries decided it was time to go home, and he left. I ended up making an unplanned dismount. Aries made it all the way back to the barn before he could be caught. But we brought him right back out to Salmon Creek, where I had to have a little lesson with him. You can read about the event in the blog post First Fall. And now back to training. This week we have been practicing with a bit. I want Aries to know how to ride in both a halter and a bridle, and maybe eventually without tack at all. This would be our first real ride with a bit in his mouth. I tied one rein to his stirrup and lunged him a little so that he could feel the weight of the rein and some pressure on the bit while in motion. I didn't ask him to give to the pressure just yet. I only wanted him to feel it. I also asked him to yield to pressure, both left and right, when I asked for it. I started out with both the halter reins and the bridle reins in my hand with even lengths. He would feel the halter rein and the bridle rein when I asked for a turn. He seemed to get the idea pretty quickly, so I tied the halter reins up so that they wouldn't dangle too long, and I started to just use the bridle reins. Just as with the halter, if Aries leaned on my hand when I asked for a turn, I reinforced my request with the stick. My boss was throwing away some trash and deliberately being big about it, telling Aries what a brave boy he was as she tossed boxes into the dumpster. Everyone pitches in to help Aries out. Aries still leans on my hand the most when I ask for right turns. There could be many reasons for this. All horses do have an easier and more difficult side. Or he may have some muscle tension on one side of his neck. Or it could be something else. I have started to do some light massage on his neck muscles. He has had his head up quite a lot the last year and a half since he was rounded up. That's bound to get tense after a while. Aries has quite an impressive stop. He usually sits down behind and squares up. It's so nice to have a horse that has naturally good balance. Aries is still getting used to the bit. He chews on it quite a bit. I will probably put the bridle on him for a few hours this week, letting him graze with it, letting him get over the novelty of it. His trot is so big, I had to actually get off and shorten my stirrups so I didn't become unbalanced. While I was off, I decided to see how Aries would take to being asked to soften to the bit. I use a technique from a book I read called Right from the Start by Michael Schaefer. Without getting too complicated, I want him to give me his nose. I will post a link to Michael explaining his technique in the blog post. I prefer to take bits and pieces from several trainers and mesh them all together. So I will take a little bit from one trainer and a little bit from another, finding out what works best for me. At the end of our ride, I began to use my legs more when asking Aries to turn. I've always used my legs, but now I'd like to use the reins less. So we're not looking for perfection here, just a little less rein. I apply my leg as the outside front leg is lifting up. This then asks that leg to step over, making a turn. I can vary the pressure, which varies the degree of turn. I'll have to demonstrate this with Picasso sometime. Aries turns quite nicely with leg pressure. Pretty soon, the bit will be used only for refining his movement and asking for some self-carriage.